Best win of the season for the New York Rangers, and quite possibly the craziest regular season hockey game that I have ever watched. The Rangers outlast the Calgary Flames 5-4 in overtime. Alexis Lafreniere with the game-winning goal in the overtime period. Filip Chytil continuing his ascent towards superstardom. We had Jacob Trouba pretty much wrecking the entire Flames team and doing so cleanly, or at least what I thought was cleanly. We're going to talk about all this stuff and more. 4 fights in the game, talking about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blueshirts fans, to episode number 766 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. I mentioned just a second ago that this might quite possibly be, the craziest hockey game, regular season hockey game that I have ever seen. Playoffs are in a whole category of their own, so I won't go that far as saying it's the craziest I've ever seen. But for regular season, quite possibly. This game had absolutely everything, and obviously a thrilling, dramatic win for the Rangers, and also very possibly the most impressive win of the season for the New York Rangers. It's either this or the win against the Dallas Stars. And as kind of just a quick episode opening debate here, looking at those two games, you know, the Stars game was improbable because the Rangers were down for the entire game. They never led in that game until they scored the overtime game winner. They got their goalie pulled. They're working their tails off the final shift of that game just to maintain possession. You've got Keandre Miller scoring with less than a second remaining to tie that game, send it to overtime, and then Adam Fox with the heroics in the overtime period. So that one was more improbable, and it had the last second heroics, and it was very dramatic in that respect. This game wasn't as, I would say, surprising that the Rangers won it, but in terms of just being down in the weeds and just being part of just a crazy, nasty, chippy, fast-paced, out-of-control hockey game, I think this one takes the cake here. I would put this probably at number 1 ahead of the Dallas Stars win that the Rangers had a little bit earlier this season. Both very dramatic, both fantastic in their own right, but to me, for all the reasons I just mentioned, just the chippiness factor and the fact that this felt like a playoff game for pretty much the whole way through, I got to give the edge to this one. Best win of the season for the New York Rangers, and obviously something that you hope will be a tone setter for this team in the second half of the season here, and the kind of game that, to begin with, I think the Rangers have a very tight-knit locker room. Just watching these guys interact with each other, listening to them in, pregame interviews, post-game press conferences, whatever it might be. I just get the sense that this is a very close-knit bunch, but this is also the kind of game that can just bring you that much closer together. Because like I said, it was wild. I mean, the amount of hitting, the amount of fights, the momentum swings, back and forth. You had a controversial goal that the Flames scored that was held up. You have the captain of the Rangers, Jacob Trouba, dishing out all these punishing hits, getting into fights, a couple other fights in addition to that. And I said coming into this game, I really felt like, the Rangers, they got to be ready. They got to be ready to, battle for this one, because the Flames coming into this game, for anybody that missed it, I mentioned this in the past, but they were coming out of the All-Star break tied with the Colorado Avalanche for the second wild card spot in the Western Conference, aka the final playoff spot. So this is a big game for them. Both teams are refreshed. The Flames are going to come out and do everything that they can possibly do to get 2 points. They indeed did that, but the Rangers forced them to settle for just 1 point. The game went to overtime, and the Rangers won. So I had a feeling the Rangers were going to have to dig deep and obviously, play hard to win this game. But I was not ready for this. I don't think anybody was ready for the exact kind of game that unfolded in this one. But, to kind of get things rolling here and just kind of, look at the biggest highlights from this game, I think anytime that you have a game that ends in overtime, you pretty much have to start there. And I figure we might as well go ahead and do that. Talk about the big finish to this game, the way that the third period wrapped up, Rangers giving up the lead, finding a way to tie it, and then, of course, winning it in the overtime period. So I want to start with the game-tying goal for the Flames. Rangers went into the third period with a 3-2 lead. You've got the Flames in deep, and Mangiapane scores. There was some gray area here as to whether this was an example of the player turning his skate and redirecting the puck with his skate, which is legal, or if it was a distinct kicking motion that knocked the puck into the net. I have to say that I do think there was something of a kicking motion here. The problem when you're looking at plays like this is just that there's no consistency with the NHL. This will be ruled a goal, and then, tomorrow night there will be a game where a player, doesn't make as much of a forward motion with his skate as Mangiapane did here, and they'll overturn it and say no goal. That's the issue that I think a lot of fans have, is there just doesn't seem to be any consistency when it comes to reviews like this. Goalie interference, that's a whole nother story in and of itself, and we'll talk about that rule whenever something like that happens in a Ranger game at some point this season. Goalie interference, no goalie interference. But here, I wasn't as upset about this as I think a lot of Ranger fans were, online. There's some gray area because it's not like, Mangiapane wound back like he was kicking a 50-yard field goal and just booted it into the net. It wasn't like that. He kind of just moved his skate forward a little bit. To me, that still constitutes a kicking motion, and I feel like this is something that the NHL has called pretty tightly in the past. Whenever there's anything where it looks like the skate is moving forward and that results in the puck going into the net off the skate, they tend to not allow the goal to count. But in this case, again, it's not like he wound back and just absolutely booted the puck, but the skate was clearly moving forward. I guess maybe the refs or, the situation room in Toronto, the one thing you could rule here, if you want to keep this as a goal, is that maybe they did determine that Mangiapane moved his skate forward, but by the time that the puck made contact with his skate was no longer moving forward in a kicking motion. I'm kind of just grasping at straws here and trying to understand a rule that has a lot of gray area and is not called with any sort of consistency. But again, I'm not as upset about this as I think a lot of other Ranger fans were. He moved his skate forward and redirected it into the net. I do think there was something of a kicking motion there and that it probably should have been overturned. I would lean a little bit that way. But to me, this is not as clear cut as, a lot of people were making it, simply because, again, there's just no consistency with the NHL when it comes to these kinds of calls. So they have to figure it out and they have to start calling these things a little bit more consistently. But I just never know, man. It goes to replay. We think we're seeing something. We think there's enough there for a call to be overturned. Not just this call, and not just in Ranger games, pretty much across the league. And it doesn't get overturned, or you see a replay and, that call has to stand because there's no definitive evidence, and then they determine that there is definitive evidence. I have no idea. But bottom line, this goal counted. It was 3-3 at that point, and then just 2:03 later, you've got a one-timer for Stone, makes it 4-3 in favor of Calgary. Rangers got caught in a line change, and that's something else about this game. As fiercely contested as it was, and as entertaining as it was, and as fun as it was to get this win, both teams made a decent amount of mistakes, and both teams scored goals off of the mistakes of their opponent. This is a good example here. Calgary scoring off of a kind of sloppy line change by the Rangers. The Rangers took a too many men penalty that led to a Calgary goal. One of the Filip Chytil goals was set up when the Calgary player basically shanked his pass and gift-wrapped a breakaway opportunity for Filip Chytil, which is not something you want to be doing if you're playing the Rangers right now. You do not want to gift-wrap any kind of a scoring opportunity to Filip Chytil because he's going to convert the way that he's been going lately. But yeah, obviously, the Flames taking advantage of a Ranger mistake here. Then, I noticed there was a long offensive zone shift for the Panarin-Mika-Vesey line right after the Flames made it 4-3. Good push by the Rangers here. Then on their next shift after this, the long O-zone shift for that trio, you've got Panarin passing from behind the net in front to Mika Zibanejad. Panarin basically was in the corner, faked a defenseman out of his skates. Looked like he was going to carry the puck behind the net, but he actually passed before he got to the net. It was looking for sure like he was going to go around behind, but he stopped short of doing that. Pass in front to Mika. Mika was wide open, and he converts from the doorstep. So 4-4 with 7:05 remaining. Then we're getting later in the third period, and you've got Trocheck tripping his guy in the neutral zone. And the Flames go to the power play with just 2:41 remaining. I've kind of been hinting at this throughout the season, and now I feel completely comfortable simply asserting this. Vincent Trocheck takes more bad penalties than any player on the New York Rangers, and I don't even think it's really that close. And I like Trocheck. I like every aspect of Vincent Trocheck's game except for this. He's got to stop doing this. There's no need for this to happen. The penalty occurred in the neutral zone and closer to Calgary's, zone than the Rangers zone. In fact, it was just in front of the Calgary blue line. So barely into the neutral zone. It was almost an offensive zone penalty against Trocheck, but there's just no reason for this. And I realize, Trocheck, he's a gritty, scrappy player. He wants to get in your face. He wants to make life difficult. And in this case, I'm sure he wanted to not just concede a rush up the ice, but the Rangers had guys back. There was no need to do this. It's not like the Flames were about to score a goal or anything like that. And you give them a power play opportunity in a tie game with 2:41 remaining, a chippy, nasty game that you know both teams really, really want to win, and you gift wrap them an opportunity. Fortunately, Trocheck was picked up by the Ranger penalty killers. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. One of the best penalty kill shifts that you will see pretty much anywhere at any time. So the Rangers start with Fox, Lindgren, Mika, and Kreider. The Flames win the face-off. I believe they actually hit the post somewhere in here, but you've got Vesey and Goodrow. They were working their tails off once they got onto the ice. The puck was just inside the Ranger blue line, but it was along the boards, and they were both there fighting and battling. Goodrow eventually sent the puck down the ice for a clear. You also had Lindgren then blocking a shot and clearing the puck on his own. And then Jimmy Vesey with another big play. He steals the puck, clears it down the ice. And then we also got a steal from Keandre Miller. You got Mika Zibanejad skating around with the puck, basically just to kill off the last 10 or 15 seconds or however much time was left there. So just fantastic stuff all around. And then the game ends. Final 10 seconds. You got Filip Chytil maybe looking for a hat trick. Great play by Chris Kreider in the neutral zone. He steals the puck. He goes in with Chytil. Passes to his left to Chytil. Chytil, instead of shooting, passes to his right, back to Kreider, kind of forced the pass there, and it didn't work. And, man, I really wish Chytil would have shot that there. Can you imagine getting, first of all, a game-winning goal with about 10 seconds remaining, but also to complete the hat trick and basically announce to the hockey world that, I have arrived. That would be what it would have been for Filip Chytil in this situation. It didn't happen, but fortunately the Rangers got the win in the overtime period. We're going to keep everything rolling, talk about the overtime period, whole bunch of other stuff as well, including all the fights that happened in this game, all the big hits, pretty much everything. A lot happened in this game, as you guys are by now obviously very well aware. Anybody who watched it was already aware, and even if you missed this game, I'm sure you heard about some of the craziness that happened by this point. But we're going to do all that good stuff in just a second. First, though, we got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything, from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's keep everything rolling here. Talk a little bit about this crazy overtime period. Rangers pretty much dominated. It didn't last for that long. Mika Zibanejad and Alexis Lafreniere saw to that. But I thought this was a great job by Gerard Gallant here. Starting Filip Chytil in the overtime. My only reservation about that is that Filip Chytil is not a good face-off guy, and you also know how important puck possession is in the overtime period. You can lose the opening face-off and never touch the puck a single time in the overtime period. We have seen that happen before. We saw it happen to the Rangers a little bit earlier this season against Toronto. And obviously it happens around the league as well. But Filip Chytil being rewarded for an outstanding game. And also, I kind of saw this as maybe a little bit of a pat on the back from the coaching staff to Chytil, because Chytil knew that he should have shot there when him and Kreider had that rush at the end of regulation. He did not do it. But he takes the faceoff. He's out there with Panarin and Fox. He loses the faceoff. Good news is the Rangers recover it fairly quickly. Fox gets control of the puck behind the Ranger net. Rangers move it up the ice. Panarin with a sneaky shot that was turned aside. You got Panarin passing to Fox. Fox behind the net, in front to Filip Chytil with another pass. Chytil's shot is blocked. The goalie was out of position. Markstrom was down, and Flames skater got down and blocked the shot from Filip Chytil. Might have momentarily saved the game there. Chytil later had another chance on a rebound that was also stopped. But then you get a play stoppage. You got Mika, Miller, and Kreider out there together. Kreider and Mika take the puck away behind the Calgary net, but then the Flames got it back just as quickly. You've got Kadri taking a shot, hits his own guy. I believe it was Mangiapane in front of the net. So this results in a rush for the Rangers the other way. Alexis Lafreniere picks up the puck. He's zipping up the right side there. Great pass to his left to Mika Zibanejad. Mika with the one-timer just absolutely blasted it. I thought that was game right then and there. It was turned aside. Lafreniere, by this point, his momentum had carried him behind the goal line, but a nice job, recognizing the situation, getting back out there, finding the rebound before the Flames could get to it for Alexis Lafreniere. Picks up the puck. He knows that Markstrom's kind of out of position. When Lafreniere got the puck, his back was to the net, so he turns a little bit to his right, fires it at the net, and gets it in. And just like that, the Rangers win 5-4. Alexis Lafreniere's second career game-winning overtime goal, and just a fantastic win for the New York Rangers. That's one of those that, it's going to be up there at the end of the season. It might be the best one that the Rangers get all season. I think right now, like I said, it's either this or the Dallas Stars game. Rangers did an awesome job in overtime, just pretty much dominated from the opening faceoff. Got the win here, got 2 big points, and that's a hell of a way to start the post-All-Star break if you're the New York Rangers. Just a fantastic win. Cannot say enough about the job that the Rangers did in this game. And I figure, now that we've kind of talked about how this game ended and all the heroics at the end of this game, let's get to fight night, shall we? Because, we could honestly make the whole episode about everything that happened here, but I'm going to do my best to talk about this, get to some other things as well. But, so, the game starts and, both teams kind of finding their legs a little bit in the first couple of minutes. It's been a while since, anybody's played because you had the All-Star break. But then you have a situation where, Panarin made a really nifty move around his guy going up the left side into the Calgary zone. His centering pass was intercepted. Flames skate out with it. And then Trouba just absolutely levels his guy in open ice right at the Calgary blue line. Trouba is immediately attacked by Taven. Trouba lands a couple of early punches. This fight got broken up a little bit quicker than, I think that most fights typically do. But my first thought, and the announcers were talking about this too, has to be an extra 2 minutes on Tanev. You can't, I said Taven a second ago, Tanev. You can't be attacking people like this after a clean hit and not have any kind of a punishment for it, not have any kind of repercussions for it. And fortunately, the Rangers did get to the power play after that. This hit was as clean as it gets. There's no way the biggest Ranger hater out there, the biggest Trouba hater out there cannot look at this hit and possibly say that it was dirty. He didn't go after the head or anything like that, didn't launch himself. It was just a big, tough physical hit. And, Trouba should not have to fight for his life every time he delivers a hit like this. So, the Rangers go to the power play. You really want them to make them pay. But, unfortunately, the Rangers coming into this game, 2 for the last 24 on the power play. They were not able to convert here. So that was unfortunate. But then we get another fight, or 2 fights technically, later in the first period. So Lucic is hit in the neutral zone by Sammy Blais. They call a penalty against Sammy Blais. Blais is then attacked by Zdarnov. Then Lucic, he's also trying to get at Blais while Blais is down on the ice. Then you've got Cooley and Weegar. They start fighting, off to the side a little bit. Lucic was getting in Sammy Blais' face while Blais was being escorted to the penalty box. And, this one, it was a little bit harder to tell, I think, if you're the Flames, whether this was a clean hit or not. But what was interesting is, they're figuring out, who's getting a penalty for fighting and who's getting a penalty for instigating and, what should be the punishment for Sammy Blais here. They actually reviewed everything and they determined that Sammy Blais, that was a legal hit. So Blais doesn't end up being in the penalty box at all, which is kind of ironic because the hit by Blais was what started the entire thing here. And obviously, at this point, the powder keg has basically just exploded. And you already know this is going to be a crazy, chippy, nasty game the rest of the way. So, yeah, the Rangers get another power play out of this whole thing here because, again, Sammy Blais, his hit was deemed legal. You keep playing, and unfortunately, Rangers not able to convert on this power play either. So, yeah, as I'm thinking about this now, there were now 3 different instances. There ends up being 3 different instances in this game where the Flames, due to, not being able to handle a hit by the Rangers, end up putting themselves shorthanded. And the third time was the charm for the Rangers. And let's go ahead and talk about that because at this point, like I said, already 2 different incidents that included 3 different fights. Will Cooley, by the way, now with 2 fights in his first 3 NHL games. And that's another thing that I want to talk about here as a quick aside. I miss Ryan Reeves to an extent. I think he did a nice job while he was here. I think he instilled a little bit of toughness, a little bit of swagger, a little bit of personality into this Ranger team. And obviously, he is not somebody that you want to mess with. But this idea that the Rangers are, ill-equipped to play physical hockey and they don't have anybody that can fight and they're going to get pushed around in the playoffs, I don't see that at all. The last time I checked, the Rangers were pretty high up there in terms of most hits in the league. And I realize, physicality, it's not just about hitting, but the hit stat is a good place to start when you're looking at physicality. And as far as fighting and enforcers go, I mean, Trouba's obviously going to fight if the occasion calls for it. We've seen Braden Schneider fight. We've seen Lindgren fight. Barclay Goodrow will fight. Apparently, Will Cooley is more than happy to fight if the situation calls for it. I believe Blay has gotten into fights in the past. I mean, I don't know. With his knee the way that it is, I think maybe defer to somebody else. But, yeah, I mean, to me, that's not an issue for this Ranger team at all. I think they're ready to go toe-to-toe physically with anybody, and they're not going to be pushed around by any team in this league. But getting away from the detour here, getting back to the third fight of this game. So this one, whether you're a Ranger fan or a Flames fan or just a general hockey fan, there's a very good chance that you've seen this hit by Jacob Trouba right now. I mean, this is one that, I mean, I audibly reacted to this. When he delivered this hit, I just said, oh my God. Like, I mean, he absolutely just, who was it that he got? He got Kadri. And, Kadri's carrying the puck over the blue line, and Trouba just explodes through him. I mean, as big of a hit as you will see in a hockey game, pops Kadri's helmet off of his head, and then you've got Doobie jumping Jacob Trouba. Trouba takes him down, clearly won the fight, fourth fight of the game. Now, as far as the hit here for Trouba, in the Flames' slight defense, I will say that this one was a little bit tougher to tell. The first Trouba hit, like I said, there's not a person on this planet that can say that is a dirty hit. This one, I think, was clean as well. It looked like it was shoulder to shoulder, but everything happens really fast out there, and it's not like Trouba missed Kadri's head by that much, so I can see the Flames taking exception and wanting to jump in there, but it was to their own detriment because, once again, they got the instigator penalty. The Rangers go to the power play, and they're able to convert. But to me, watching this replay and trying to slow it down, and did he get his head at all? Did Trouba get Kadri's head at all? I do not believe that he did, and to kind of back up my point here, if Trouba, you guys saw how hard he hit Kadri on this play. If Trouba had made that kind of contact with Kadri's neck or his chin or his face, Kadri would not have gotten back up as fast as he did. I really don't believe he would have. And I'm not saying this is a way to, gloat about the hit itself. I'm saying this in a very practical way here. Like, the NHL would have stepped in and, the whole concussion protocol thing. Kadri, if they determine that Kadri took this hit in the neck, the chin, the face, the head in any way, very, very good chance, they're going to buzz the from the situation room or whatever it is and have Kadri leave the game and go into concussion protocol. Kadri was fine. He popped right back up after this. I mean, you could tell, he felt it for sure, but I don't think he missed a single shift after this. And, we kept playing, and, Doobie jumped Trouba. Trouba handled his business. I mean, look, if somebody's going to attack you and start swinging fists, you got to fight back, and that's what Trouba did. Rangers go to the power play, and the third time was the charm here. It was 2-2 at this point in the game, late in the second period. You've got Kreider getting a pass to Mika on the other side of the net, and Mika scores with just 14 seconds remaining in the second period. Panarin got this whole thing started. Really, every Ranger power play member, had a hand in this one, but you've got Panarin hitting Kreider while Kreider was coming out in front of the Ranger net from behind the net, and then that's when Kreider made just a beautiful no-look pass over to the other side to Mika Zibanejad. Mika cranks it home. 3-2 Rangers going into the third period. And that obviously set the stage for what was a crazy third period, an even crazier overtime, and a very dramatic win for the New York Rangers. But I want to keep everything going in just a second. We've got to talk about Chytil's ascent, his fantastic game here, and essentially what has become his climb to stardom in this league. Also want to talk a little bit about some of the lineup decisions and Jaroslav Halak making his second straight start, bookending the All-Star break. He got the last game before the break, got the first game after the break. So we're going to talk about all that in just a second. But first, we just got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I use Athletic Greens literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about. Now I've been on it for about 9 months, and I absolutely love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy, has kind of a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It is lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it costs you less than $3 a day, you're investing in your health, and it is cheaper than your cold brew habit. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews. Right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, so let's talk about Filip Chytil, shall we? I mean, this is just an incredible season that he's putting together, becoming one of the driving forces of this New York Ranger team and one of the biggest reasons why they got their season turned around after going through some really dark times, in the fall there. Just putting it all together, putting all the pieces together in what is, I guess technically it would be considered his 4th season, but he's played parts of now 5 seasons with the New York Rangers. If there was any doubt remaining, it was erased in this game. This is officially Filip Chytil's breakout season with the New York Rangers. He gets goals number 17 and 18, the first 2 goals of the game for the Rangers. And again, I've talked about this recently, but just a more confident, more assertive. You can tell just by looking at him. You can tell just by the way he carries himself. He's feeling it right now. He's confident. He knows he belongs in this league. He knows he can be a heck of a player in this league. And the best thing about Filip Chytil for me, one of the best things, there's a lot to like about Filip Chytil right now and everything that he's doing. But to me, it's just the fact that when he gets a scoring opportunity, you feel like he's going to convert. You feel like that puck is going into the net. And it didn't really feel like this way last year. When Filip Chytil would get a scoring opportunity last year, oftentimes from a high danger spot on the ice, it was amazing how many times he would shoot wide. And I don't know if that's just a confidence thing, if it's overthinking it, if it's trying to be too fine with your shot instead of just, letting it rip and letting your shot, do the work for you almost. I don't know exactly what the issue was, but so many times where, Chytil would be like, 7 or 8 feet in front of the net, and he'd miss the net by like 3 feet. So he's obviously turned that around, fixed that part of his game. Pretty much just a 180 this year, shattering his career highs in every possible relevant stat, and once again, becoming one of the driving forces of this New York Ranger team. Pending, I was going to say UFA, pending RFA, Rangers are going to have to figure something out with Filip Chytil. We will see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, very, very nice to see him reaching his potential. And then the other funny thing here, too, is, Filip Chytil, now in kind of his 5th season, if you count that first season where he only played 9 games, 5th season with the team, and you kind of think like, okay, well, he's finally getting there. Yeah, Filip Chytil's still only 23 years old, and I think he turned 23 not really all that long ago. So it's crazy. It's crazy how long he's been here, how young he still is, and the fact that, he's just reached a whole other level this season. This is what we've been talking about when it comes to, the kids, Chytil, Lafreniere, and Kakko. The Rangers truly become dangerous, truly become bona fide Stanley Cup contenders when 1 or 2, or preferably all of those players, take their game to that next level, take a hop, skip, and a leap forward instead of just baby steps forward. We are now getting that from Filip Chytil. Kakko has shown signs that he's about to get there this season. Lafreniere has been more confident since he's been back with the kid line. So hopefully the other 2 will follow suit. But man, Filip Chytil just on a whole other level, and by far the best season that he has ever had for the New York Rangers. Go by the stats, go by the eye test, go by whatever you want. Filip Chytil has taken his game to a whole other level. And while we're talking about Phil, might as well go ahead and talk about the 2 goals that he scored here, giving the Rangers a 1-0 lead and then later a 2-1 lead. So first goal of the game, you got Adam Fox moving the puck into the neutral zone to Kakko. Kakko with a beautiful pass off the boards. He clearly got an A in geometry, but he springs Filip Chytil into the attacking zone. You got Chytil and Lafreniere flying into the zone. Chytil could have forced a pass here. Instead, just snaps a quick shot into the far side of the net. Number 17 for Filip Chytil. And, again, there's times where the Rangers in this situation will look to force that pass. And who knows? Maybe if Chytil passes to Lafreniere would have scored. It would have worked out great anyway. But that was going to be a tough pass to complete. The defenseman was there. Filip Chytil recognized that, didn't hesitate, shot the puck, and scores into the far side of the net. Then the second goal, I alluded to this one earlier when I was talking about some of the miscues that each team made, but the Flames just shank a pass. Filip Chytil picks it up at the Ranger blue line, goes in up the left side on a breakaway, and scores 5-hole. I think he shot this a little bit earlier than maybe Markstrom was expecting him to, but hey, great move by Filip Chytil there. He scores, and something else that I love here is I've always kind of marveled at Filip Chytil's speed, and I've also kind of cited that as one of the reasons why I wouldn't mind seeing him play a little bit more wing as opposed to center. But, I mean, the way he's playing right now, I'm not going to move him either. I'm not going to move him away from the position where he's excelling. But you saw that speed on full display here on both goals. You know, that was a huge part of why Chytil scored each of these goals here. So just great stuff all around. Once again, cannot say enough about the job that Filip Chytil is doing right now, and to a lesser extent, the entire kid line. Those guys are feeling it lately. Chytil with the 2 goals, Lafreniere with the overtime winner, and Capo Caco with a primary assist in this game. It seems like they're always getting on the score sheet and always, just playing solid hockey all around. Only other thing that I wanted to mention here today was a couple of the lineup changes. For starters, you got Jaroslav Halak making his second straight start. He bookended, like I said, each end of the All-Star break, which is pretty interesting to see. It's funny because this was going to be like the first thing that I talked about. Okay, that's interesting. Halak's playing 2 straight games and a long layoff for Igor Shesterkin. But you guys saw that game. You saw how crazy it was, and you saw how much there obviously was to talk about here. So this almost becomes a little bit of an afterthought. But, as far as why this happened, just to kind of throw out an idea, I would imagine that Gallant and Benoit Allaire and maybe the entire coaching staff see a benefit to Igor Shesterkin getting some extended time off here. It could also be that Igor was at the All-Star game and they're just letting him kind of settle back in and went with Halak for this one. But assuming that Igor plays on Wednesday against the Canucks, that will be exactly 2 weeks since his last game, which is a long layoff. And I don't know that you want your franchise goalie and your guy, you're arguably your team MVP, or at least one of the MVPs, sitting for that long and not playing for that long. And I know he played in the All-Star game, but, I mean, that's not even real hockey. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the exact reasoning behind it, but my best guess, once again, is that they're looking to keep Igor fresh. They saw, with the way that the schedule was laid out here, an opportunity to give him a lengthy break, physical break, maybe even a mental break as well, and have him ready to go down the stretch here, and hopefully deep into the playoffs as well. That's my best guess as far as why Halak has been playing these games. The other reason, we got to give some props to Halak here. He's played very well recently. Even in this game, for a goalie that gave up 4 goals, and I would say the same thing for Markstrom giving up 5 goals. Both goalies, I thought, made a lot of really good saves in this game. Like I said, this game was all over the place. It had a little bit of everything, and I don't think that the high score was necessarily the result of poor goalie play. I thought they both did okay, and in some cases made some really nice saves. But Halak had 5 straight wins coming into this game, make it 6 in a row, and has obviously done a complete 180 on his season. The other thing that I want to mention real quick here before we call it is you've got Will Cooley and Sammy Blais in the lineup over Kravtsov and Gauthier. Blais went down to the Hartford Wolfpack, was averaging 20 minutes a game there, had 4 goals in 5 games with the Wolfpack. You just hope that his confidence is on the rise and that he can just become something of a relevant player for the New York Rangers. I still feel like post-trade deadline, Sammy Blais might find himself either traded or squeezed out of the lineup by 1 or 2 of the forwards that the Rangers will probably bring in. We'll see how that goes, but he was back in the lineup for this one. Will Cooley, he was out there hitting, he was playing physical, and like I said, 2 fights in 3 NHL games for Will Cooley, so he's winning over the fans, and I'm sure winning over his teammates as well. As for Gauthier and Kravtsov, here's an idea that I want to float out there. I think it's possible that one of these two has played his last game as a New York Ranger. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, there's still a decent chance that we'll see one of these guys again, but there's also a pretty good chance. The Rangers are carrying 23 players right now, and I would think they want to knock it back down to 22 for cap space purposes at the trade deadline. And I just get the feeling, Kravtsov, he's had some chances, hasn't really done a whole lot with them. Gauthier, he's been up and down with this organization, and, he'll show some flashes here and there, but he's yet to put it all together. Rangers obviously won this game in dramatic fashion. I don't think they'll make any changes to the lineup, and I get the feeling that maybe one of these 2 players could be on the move in exchange for a draft pick sooner rather than later, and entirely possible that at least one of these 2 has played his last game as a New York Ranger. Now, we'll see. It's also possible that they'll eventually mix back in and, they'll have a chance to reclaim a spot in the lineup, but Yeah, I think it's certainly at least possible that one of them could be on the move, like I said, sooner rather than later, maybe even a little bit later this week. We've seen a couple of trades go down in the NHL. It's officially that time of the year, so we shall see there. But yeah, I figured we could pretty much call it there for today. Only other thing I want to mention, Artemi Panarin gets to 300 points in 236 games as a Ranger, fastest ever for a New York Ranger. So congrats to Artemi Panarin there. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is at @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.